it going over the ridge. Banded Houndsharks. There it is. The Sharknado. Holy shark!
The main dive site here that's analogous to the tiger shark dive in Fumula is the Bami dive site. Basically, it's this site where banded houndsharks, which are an endangered species, now aggregate along with red stingrays, which are near threatened, because there's a reliable food source there day after day from one particular dive operator. And the story behind how that originated is actually pretty cool. A number of years ago, fishermen who set nets that are actually called set nets in the nearshore environment were basically dealing with this problem associated with these banded houndsharks. The set nets are placed out in the water and left there for really long periods of time. They're not gill nets. They have very, very fine mesh, and so animals don't actually get entangled in the nets. They act more as barriers. And as the tide moves and these animals navigate through the set nets, they actually end up in smaller and smaller compartments and can eventually be trapped, but more they're encircled more than they are stuck in the gill net, so they stay alive. And what that means is that fishermen can come out and pull these nets up when they want at the right tide in the right seasons and see what's in there, and if there's stuff they don't want, they can release it. And so in that way, it's pretty nice because it's a fairly selective method of using nets to catch fish. The issue came about when banded houndsharks realized that if they swam into these nets, they'd find fish they couldn't escape, right? They're taking advantage of easy foraging opportunities. That was a problem because they'd eat a bunch of the fish that the fishermen wanted, and at the same time, they would then damage the nets, create holes, etc. So then the fishermen just couldn't have this anymore. This was not going to work for them. What they did is the head of the Fisheries Alliance in this area talked to a dive operator, a local dive operator, and asked him, hey, if you start feeding in this particular area, maybe you could draw all these sharks away from the nets and they wouldn't be an issue for us anymore, and maybe you could have a dive site with reliable sharks that elsewhere are very, very rare because they've been hammered so hard by fisheries across the extent of their range. That would then bring in local tourism dollars. And so this dive operator started to feed at a specific time, specific site, day after day, created this whole ecotourism dive site around it, and now all of the banded houndsharks in the area are there. They don't mess with the fishermen, they're not stealing the fishermen's catch, they're not destroying the fishermen's nets. Those guys are catching the species that they want without dealing with the shark bycatch, and simultaneously the dive operator is making a bunch of money and bringing in a lot of tourists to this area that is actually a very quiet part of the Tokyo region who want to dive with these species that they can't see anywhere else on Earth.